All right, guys, today joining me is Matthew Fisher. Now, Matthew is a very talented composer, producer, mixer, masterer. He is a one man band, he does everything. And he reached out to me last week and emailed me a link to his website, which is matthewfishermusic.com. And you should definitely go take the time, check out this guy's music. It is some of the best music I've heard in a long, long time from students that have submitted tracks to me or submitted any music to me. And so his quality, just the quality of production that he did, stood out. So I hit a star on his email. I basically put a little highlight on it, and I said, I definitely need to talk to this guy and find out what's going on in his career, because his tracks sound like they should be already on major motion pictures, major Hollywood TV shows, all that stuff. He's got the quality, he's got the talent, obviously, to do it. But as we started talking and chatting, Matthew let me know that he had some sort of, he didn't have the knowledge necessarily about the whole side of the business that includes royalties. So he's been involved with a different side of the licensing business, which does earn money, but as you guys will probably learn here soon, was not providing the rewarding, lasting benefits of what passive income royalties can. So Matthew, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, man, thanks for having me.
So if you could just walk us through a little bit of your history, how you got started composing music, and what led you down the path that you're on right now.
Yeah, so I like didn't grow up with music. I didn't take lessons or anything like that. It was just when I got into high school, I went through the like band phase. I was listening to a lot of bands and stuff, so I started to enjoy music, but never really like tried picking up an instrument or anything. So I tried piano and just kind of eared things out that I heard on the radio and stuff, and I could kind of play by ear. So I thought that was cool. So I kind of stuck with it and started kind of tinkering around and making my own stuff. And then eventually I went into college and tried learning like the music theory stuff. And it was terrible. Everybody else was passing me in the class and I just couldn't grasp it, but I could make music. So I'm like, okay, now what do I do? So I kind of struggled with this and wrestled with this thing. I'm like, you know what? It's not possible, whatever. And so I just went, I kind of put the music thing aside, played a little piano from time to time, and that was kind of it. And then I went for occupational therapy because I wanted to help people and stuff, and that was kind of my niche, I guess. And did that for a few years in college, and then while I was doing that, I found this site called Audio Jungle, and it was royalty-free music licensing, and they were in their infant stage at that point. So I was like, hey, I'll make a couple songs and put that up, and see what happens. And got a few sales on that, and it started picking up speed. So that happened about the same time I got into my program for occupational therapy. So I had just gotten married. I was at a crossroads, and I was like, okay, either I'm going to pursue this music thing full time and just grind every day and make it work, or I'm going to play it safe and do something that will make a living, but it's not what I want to do, really, like what my goal is. And so I told my wife I was going to quit school. She freaked out, and eventually she got over it and just busted it for like 2 years and was making a track every day. I mean, that's what you have to do. Like, you say it all the time. Like, you have to be consistent. You have to make a lot of stuff. And eventually that paid off. And so it was basically my month-to-month income, and we were doing great on that for years. And then Audio Jungle started to get more saturated, and my sales started to go down because there was so many other people just flooding the marketplace with so much stuff. So I got a little worried this past year, and I'm like, okay, I got to kind of scramble and find another way to make some income, get some different revenue streams going. With a family and house and stuff, it gets scary. So I discovered that I actually saw one of your videos, and I was like, this guy is successful. He's doing music. He's collecting royalties. He's making a living with royalties and stuff. And so I kind of investigated a little bit, and I was like, wow, there really is some money in this. I haven't explored that at all. So here I am, kind of at another crossroads where I'm maybe going to shift gears towards focusing on the royalty aspect and not the royalty-free stuff that I have been doing. In trying to push things to the next level and really hone in on getting those different revenue streams going. So, that's kind of the story in a nutshell, I guess. There's a lot of stuff in between, different freelance jobs and film composing stuff, but yeah, that's kind of where I am now. So
Now I have a question for you. So when you're submitting music to Audio Jungle, do you know if this is a thing where if it's an exclusive license with them, is it perpetual, meaning it always has to stay with them, or is there a time period where they can release your tracks back to you, or do you know how
um,
this?
you basically have control of how long you want to have your stuff with them. I mean, you
Okay.
can take your tracks down at any time. There's no obligatory time frame. You have to have the songs on there. I mean, they have contests that they hold. If you win a contest, you have to keep that particular song on there for that one of those kind of things. But no, if I feel that a song is not getting represented the way it should, and I know it's a good song and it should be getting licenses, I am free to take that off and just do what I want with it.
Because I would imagine you have hundreds of tracks on this website, right?
Right? Yeah.
Okay, so you technically, if you could find a library to partner with, and they're like, "Hey, we need a whole bunch of music," you could technically, maybe not pull all of your stuff off of Audio Jungle, but if there were ones that were sort of not getting the attention you felt, you could
Right.
just transfer those to a new library exclusively and see how they
Yeah.
can do for you. Okay.
Yeah, I could do that, or I could. What I've been thinking about doing is possibly making that account non-exclusive, so that I can still generate. Because it's a lot of buildup. I've built a portfolio and won different contests and stuff, and so that kind of builds up your, I don't know, your clout, I guess, on there. And so I'd like to do something like that, but if I knew there was another way where like a sure way that I could take all that music off and just shove it into another marketplace and be, kind of, I know there's no guarantee in this industry, but to put it somewhere where I knew it was going to make some money.
Or the
And
other approach you could have is just basically starting fresh with a new catalog that you're going just for music libraries, for TV film placements. And then as you build those relationships up, let's say you start seeing some pretty incredible royalties built up, that
right,
might be the sort of confidence you need to know that, oh, this is the path I can maybe start transferring away from an Audio Jungle or somebody like that to somebody. But yes, you might want to have that period of maybe a year or so just to see what a particular library or maybe two or three different ones are going to be able to do for you, and then you sort of weigh them against what your results are with Audio Jungle, and then you can decide maybe where you should start filtering some of your music out. But I definitely feel you
yeah,
there that like you've definitely got a platform that's making you money, right? It might not be making you the
it
passive
is.
income, but it's
Mm,
definitely paying your bills. It's definitely getting you month to month income, and you don't want to lose that on a risky
exactly.
situation where maybe you get sat on with a music library, which, to keep it
Mhm.
real, does happen. There are libraries that will take music from people and never get you any placements. So
Mhm.
it's just the world. There's just always risk in everything. That's why I always say definitely partner with at least two or three libraries in the beginning that have a
Yep.
track record, that have a personal relationship with you. Now, I don't know how close you can get with Audio Jungle. I know in the beginning it was probably a lot easier because you were one of only a few
Right.
writers, and but these days, like you said, they're all over the internet. Everybody's throwing their music at them. Like you said, even Grammy nominated or winning
Yeah,
artists and
yeah.
composers.
The quality on there has. I mean, I'm happy for them. They're having a lot of success, but they've become this corporate music machine, and the best of the best even is not even getting heard all the time. Because I mean, yeah, you have Grammy artists and stuff, and they propel those guys sometimes, but I mean, even some of those guys are not getting their music heard like they should, and it's backwards. Like the guy who's taken 20 minutes to plunk something together, throws it up on there, calls it inspiring ukulele or something, is getting 1,000 sales, and the dude who's spending 2 weeks on a track meticulously articulating everything is getting 5 sales. It's not right.
So interesting. So I do, like I said, we were talking before we started recording here, that I do have hope for those kind of platforms because they are sort of going in a futuristic direction. But I really
Yeah.
wish they would incorporate more of the passive income royalty side of things and maybe have more of a curation process where the higher quality tracks can get paid a better rate maybe than the lower quality ones, or have some sort of way of rewarding those composers and producers that they really want to stick with and reward. Because what will happen, and it happens to every library, that if you don't reward and take care of your high quality producers, they go elsewhere. They're going to find somewhere else to get placements, and then you'll be left with those guys with the inspirational ukulele tracks, and that's all you'll have is just a bunch of karaoke sounding crap.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we'll see what the future will bring, but I definitely I hope that they do start adopting some of the other cool parts of music licensing, which is passive income royalties, and that's what I live off of. That's my bread and butter, and that's what you're attempting to get into. So
Right.
before we continue on, let me play one of your tracks for the subscribers here, so they can hear the quality that you can bring here. So this is from Matthew's website. He has all of these awesome tracks. You can see I'm going to scroll up and down here. incredible numbers of tracks and all of these playlists on SoundCloud. But one of them that I want to really zero in on is from his heroic action trailer series. This one's called just Epic Film Trailer. And we're going to talk after this song is over about how Matthew achieved this sound from his very humble home studio. So take a listen. All right, man, I'm ready to go to war. So, how the hell did you pull that off? That is a huge, huge sounding track, man. So can you walk us through maybe your production process, how you got samples like that, how you compose, all that good stuff?
Yeah, so it started out like just discovering samples. That was like in 2011. I had no idea you could recreate an orchestra, like no idea about that stuff. So I did a little research and found East-West Quantum Leap, which is kind of was the staple back then. So I kind of learned with this, orchestra, and it's still good in its own right. And I recommend it to anybody who's just breaking in to get kind of a primer with all this stuff. You almost have to find what kind of music you like to make. There's a lot of cinematic music. So do you like to make epic music? Okay, there's strings and there's orchestral samples for that. Do you like to make, this kind of subtle indie new age kind of cinematic thing? There's samples for that. There's atmospheric libraries. There's different things like that. But for this in particular, it's all about setting the orchestra in a space, a lot like you would have in real life. I mean, the players aren't going to be right up front in your face. A film score is going to have an orchestra that is in a hall, so it comes down to reverbs is a huge, huge one. So you kind of listen to the samples that you have, and you set it in a place that it would sound like in an orchestral hall. So you have the French horn, it's going to fill up the room. So you put kind of a nice long reverb on that. And then you have strings are going to be a little bit tighter. You want to hear that definition. So you're going to put a reverb that doesn't have as long of a tail in it and stuff. And so it's all things like that. And when it comes to the actual libraries that you're using to accomplish this thing, it's a lot of just searching around. I mean, there's a million people who make quality stuff now. I mean, for me, I use a lot of Spitfire audio. I use a lot of 8Dio. I'll reach for East-West from time to time for certain things. Cinesamples is another great one. And I mean, I have just like terabytes of stuff. So I mean, Audio Imperia is a newer company that makes great texture movement stuff. They do a really fantastic job. But yeah, it's just kind of finding each library is going to have its own strengths and weaknesses. So say like for a library from Cinesamples called Cinebrass, maybe it has a great sounding beefy low-end brass sound, but maybe you don't like the sound of the trumpets. Okay, I'll find a library that has the right trumpet sound that I want. You purchase that library, and eventually, with a lot of time and money invested, you eventually have a huge palette where you have the best of every single library, and all that stuff compiled together is what's going to give you a realistic sound, as real as you can get. And then that in combination with maybe trying to find a live cellist in your area or a violinist, or go online. I found a violinist. Her name is Joni Fuller, and she does great work, and I collab with her all the time. I have her play some violin over top of the real string, over top of the sampled strings to make them sound real, and a lot of things like that kind of all together make up that that realistic sound. So,
Now, that's awesome. Now, a big part of composing, especially for trailer music, orchestral music, is having the right voicing, right? With the
right.
strings and the bass and all that kind of stuff. This is
Yeah.
something that is not intuitive for a lot of people
Hmm.
who basically didn't grow up around an orchestra. You know, most of us grew up
Right.
maybe with a guitar, so we know how a guitar chord should work, but we don't know
Right.
that strings should be maybe placed certain distances apart.
Yep.
And so, was this something that you were formally educated on and trained in, or did you just kind of like self-teach yourself this and listen to references and copy them?
Yeah. Basically, I became obsessed with like film scores and stuff. So I listened to film scores all the time. I mean, I would walk around, even when I was in college and stuff. I'd have like the big, huge headphones, like I was an astronaut and stuff, and people would give me weird looks. I'm like, I don't care. I love this stuff because I had these big headphones, and they kind of made you feel like you were in the space of like an orchestra. So I was constantly listening to that stuff and referencing and kind of listening not only to one type of orchestral music but many types, like hybrid and something really intimate and something really intense, and just kept it open to everything. And so I'd go into these things like I'd take a John Williams score, and I'd start listening to it, and I'd listen to the strings, like how do the strings sound, what is he doing with the strings, how far away, how close do they sound, what instruments is he layering on top of each other. And you don't hear these things right away unless you really listen. So it was just listening to these kinds of things over and over and understanding, okay, what patterns are working together and what instruments usually play nice together, which instruments complement each other, all things like that. You start to develop an understanding of just by listening. And then listening kind of turned into, okay, well, there is this thing that I don't understand about the orchestra still from just listening. So I'm going to go online and try and do some research and see if I can find the answer for that. And there's so many pages now dedicated to like orchestral stuff, and it's a wealth of knowledge. Anything you really want to learn is out there. So I mean, if listening to orchestra and film music only gets you so far, there's a million places you can go to learn this too. I was just taking an online class. I think the URL is cinematic-composing.com. And this guy Mark Giovanni, giving him a quick plug here, such a nice guy, and he'll teach you from the ground up what it takes to make these things sound real as well. So I took that in the last few months, learned a few more things, and yeah, it's just being passionate and just always listening to it, always being surrounded by some form of influence in that style of music. So
Yeah, I think that's a great point to sort of end here on, is that you can learn so much from just listening to the people who are doing it right now. I remember when I
yeah.
was in college, the first couple of years, I started getting into songwriting and how do
Hmm.
you write a hit song and how do you write, clever lyrics. Obviously, I never quite got there because you didn't see my name on the charts anywhere. But I remember just listening over and over again to the top 40 tracks. And I was just like, so what do these things all have in common? And then you start picking apart what they are. Now, there's a million and one songwriting books you can buy, and some of them will definitely tell you exactly what you need to know. But I
Right.
don't think the learning, there's like two different types of learning, I think, in the world, or many types, obviously. But I
Yeah.
think the Eastern cultures kind of got this figured out, that there's sort of like book learning where you can read about a subject and understand it in an intellectual manner, and then there's like physical learning where it just happens to you. Like
Yeah.
there, you can like you were saying, you can look at forums or you can take a course or you can do any of that kind of stuff. And it's gonna like intellectually make sense to you, but until you
Right.
are listening and then
Yes.
using your fingers on your keyboard, emulating what you're hearing with references, you get the knowledge absorbed into your bones, into your muscles. That's where the
Yep.
real knowledge, the real wisdom starts to actually be useful to you, because you can actually do the thing you want to do, not just understand it, know what a good mix is or know what a good orchestral composition should be, but actually do the thing. You know, it's one thing to like study snowboarding, but it's another thing to put the straps on, go down a hill and get your butt, knocked all over the hill
Absolutely.
and get a bunch of
Yes.
bruises and realize, oh, now I know snowboarding now. Before I understood it,
Right.
but now I know it. So I think that's definitely something we can both walk away with, is that's really what I was, I did take some music theory courses in college, but honestly, none of that stuff really applies to me today. What really applies is what I've taught myself, and what I've been doing is just listening to reference tracks and listening to top 40 tracks and going like, oh, how did they do that? That's cool. That's cool. That's cool. And eventually those habits become just second nature to you, where your tracks like here on your website sound like Hans Zimmer. Like they sound like already up there on the A-list thing. So you're going to get there. I know that because you've obviously shown you have the work ethic. Like you obviously have the crazy amount of tracks out there. You've made the sacrifices possible, and most importantly, you have a family that supports you, that knows that you can do it and actually will give you the support you need, because this is not an easy thing to do. And you obviously, of all people, could tell everybody watching this is not an easy industry to get a part of. And I always want to reiterate that yes, I'm excited about it, and yes, it's basically a dream life once you get to be able to just make royalties passively. But it does not come overnight. It takes a long time, and it, like you said, it takes consistency. You have to crank out tracks every single day, every single week. So, Matthew, thank you so much. So, you guys go to MatthewFisherMusic.com. He has a Facebook profile. He has his link to his Audio Jungle page there. I'll pull that up here so you can go check out his music. If you are looking for music to license, definitely go license his music, and you'll probably find his music soon in the music library as well. He does custom stuff too, so you can hit him up if you have a project that you need custom music for. He also does sheet music. So you actually create sheet music for your tracks, or what is that about?
Yeah, I send I did some solo album. Like I started on piano, so I was doing the solo artist thing for a while before I got into Audio Jungle. So yeah, all that piano music. I worked with a friend of mine, sent him the MIDI, and then we worked together to kind of get it in sheet music form. So I got a guy for that, even though I don't know how to do it. I was like, I need to find a way to do it, and there's always a way to do anything. So I just found somebody and made it happen. So
awesome. Well, thank you so much again, Matthew, for sharing your knowledge and your wisdom with us. And I think some great big things are coming for you in your future very soon.
Thanks, man.